couple people show up only.
Oh,
The
yeah.
broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sharon Dooley. I'll be the moderator today. We have an interesting talk. It's sort of looking to the future about managing SQL Server everywhere from anywhere. And our speaker is Eric Kang, who's from Microsoft. Come on, PowerPoint, cooperate. There. Next week is a 24 hours of PASS. It's a preview of the summit. Many of the speakers who will be presenting at summit will be there. You can register. I know one person who actually attended all 24 hours. Okay. He's crazy. Okay, but he literally went to sessions for 24 hours. They're always good. I've attended several. I've moderated many of them, and it's well worth taking your time. There should be a list of what the speakers are, and you can check it out and see what you want to see. It's free. More free training. We have another Business Analytics Day coming up in August in San Diego. You can register. It's a day of learning. It's not free. It's $595. Then we have the summit coming up, October 31st to November 3rd in Seattle. Price is going to go up by $400 after July 23rd. So get your registration in to save money. We have for the DBA virtual chapter, we have a discount code. It's shown on this slide. It's in every mailing you receive from me, and that will save you $150. And every time 20 people use this code, we'll get a complimentary registration that we will raffle off to all of you. Okay. We are one of many virtual groups. They just changed our name from virtual chapters, and I'm still struggling with it. Feel free to attend others. The way you get information about what they're doing is to go to your past profile and check off interest in the chapter. If you haven't been to a SQL Saturday, try to find one near you. They're a one-day training event. They're all over the place. They are like a mini conference. And well worth attending. And you'll be asked to pay for lunch, but nothing else. You look to see if there's a local chapter in your area. There are many. They have a face-to-face meetings, usually with refreshments. At my local group, it's always pizza, which is not my favorite food. But in any case, it's a good chance to get to know people in your area, a good chance for networking, and they usually have interesting presenters. PASS is a volunteer organization. Yes, there's staff in the headquarters and in IT and that stuff, but everything else is done by volunteers. And we can always use help. Now, this isn't for you guys who are here, but the people who discover us on YouTube, as we use YouTube as a vehicle for posting our recordings. And so they're all subscribing. I get messages every day that so-and-so is subscribed to me on YouTube, but they're not getting the whole bit. So this is to encourage them to become members of PASS and not just sign up on YouTube. Okay. If you're not a member of PASS, it's free. And I'm told they're not seeing the PowerPoint, probably because I didn't show my screen, and you have not really missed anything exciting. And so, can you see the PowerPoint now?
Yep, I can see that.
Okay. And now, as I said, our presenter is Eric Kang. He's a senior program manager in the SQL Choice team in the data platform group at Microsoft. He specializes in database development tools, including the SQL Server Developer Tools, MS SQL extension for Visual Studio, and he's working on things for Windows, but also on Mac OS and Linux or whatever your favorite presentation is. Okay. And all of this, if you didn't see the slides, they will be included, I assume, in the recording. I can send them to anybody who wants them. What I want to do now is turn the meeting over to Eric and let him do his thing. We'll take questions at the end. Just type your questions in the question box and go to it. Okay, Eric, it's your turn.
All right, thank you, Sharon. Hi, my name is Eric Kang. As Sharon introduced me, I'm in the SQL Server in Microsoft, and the main area is the SQL Tools. So when we talk about SQL Tools, you're building tools, but what is important is that the tools in actual practical scenarios. So today, the main topic is about the managing SQL everywhere from anywhere with the SQL Tools. I'm going to do a demo heavy to make it more fun than lots of slides and slides and slides. So let's do this way. I will walk through of SQL Tools in actions with the demos. So I'm going to set up a demo scenario. And in the course of the demo, we will see how tools and services can be utilized. So you can feel like what can happen, what you can do with the tools. Okay. Oh, I didn't turn it into presentation mode. Okay, here we go. So instead of just talking about the tools feature ABC, it's kind of boring often. So let's set up a demo scenario for this 1 hour session. Probably we have to go with like 45 to 50 minutes. So the scenario is like this. On a daily basis, we need to produce dev and test environments with our online applications and SQL Server databases. This is kind of the common scenario that we encounter. And for troubleshooting and bug fix, we want to utilize data in the production. However, it has sensitive user data, so we have to protect it and mask it. So like the user's email, social security number, credit card information, those kind of stuff doesn't go spill into a dev and test environment when they do troubleshooting or bug fixings. But we want to make it working for them. So as part of the functional and the solution requirement are the 3 bullets below. The solution must be repeatable. We don't want to kind of stay up at night and then repeating this one, configuring and then more and over and over whenever we need this kind of test and dev environment. It should be repeatable and the best automated, so we can run daily basis on a set schedule basis. Now, we want to utilize Docker. Docker is nowadays kind of getting a great popularity in the IT world. And it is basically containerizing the app and DB so that we can easily orchestrate the process to deploy, monitor app and DB as a whole, not just the DB or not just the app. It's a concept of app in a global scale. And then we want to manage it more efficiently with a Docker container. And another requirement that we set for this demo solution is that the solution must not be bound with a specific OS or specific technology that needs a specific OS. So the main reason is that nowadays we choose our technology and solution that is best fit for our business. Right? It can be, in that case, it can be running multiple OS platforms, on-prem or cloud. It should be flexible. So these are the set of the scenarios and requirements that we're going to go through. Let's jump into demo. I usually just have a couple slides at the beginning and jump into the demo. So let's do that. Okay, so sketching our solution. So I need to build a dev and test databases, including environments that they can use, right? So and using Docker, that was the solution definition, that the requirements that we defined. So when we do that, let's do this way. We are going to create a container, which is basically your environment that runs SQL on it and database along with it. And I'm going to restore a backup of a production database there, and the massages so that I can make reduce the size if it is needed, and also mask sensitive data there. And then I will script out so that the script has all the data masked already, and then produce dev or test environment using that script. So that's kind of a sketch. And after that, once that solution is built and tested and it's good, then I'm going to automate it. That's the last piece of today's demo. Okay, so what you're seeing here is MS SQL extension on Visual Studio Code. If you haven't tried MS SQL extension on Visual Studio Code, you can, I have all the links that the technology that I use today's demo, and you can just follow. If you go to Visual Studio Code and extensions view-let, then you can simply type in MS SQL, and it just searches the extension from the VS Code marketplace, and you can click install, uninstall using this one. So right now we released this tool back in November 16 last year. Now over 6 months or so, we have a cumulative 200,000, over 200,000 installations so far. So it is gaining the great popularity, and it's good. Basically, a VS Code is an editor. It is not IDE, it's editor. Editor with great extensions. So if you are working mostly with editor-based operations, probably for the SQL Server users, it is writing the T-SQL scripts. Not only for that, nowadays we are using PowerShell, Bash scripts, and other programming languages along with T-SQL. Those are available as extensions in Visual Studio Code. You can download it and then work together. So as you see, in my the project for today's demo, I have created a project with SQL files and the Bash scripts, even PowerShell there, and you can add other languages, and then you can make it as your project. Okay, so let's jump into our scenario. So we just sketched our plan for our project. So let's do that. The first step of doing the Docker is that, of course, if you see, there is I'm running a Docker service. So you can just go to Docker web page and download it, install it. And as you see, I'm running it on Mac. Once you download it, install the service. Make sure that I'll show you, the memory size is at least 4 gigabytes. This is the requirements for SQL Server on Linux image that we can run on the Docker image. Then the command is very simple. On the command line, you just run docker pool Microsoft. Let me make it bigger. Okay. Just pull the image. This is in the public Docker image gallery, and you can just call docker pool at this line, copy paste and execute, then it will run. For the demo, to save time, it's like a less than 2 gigabytes of file. I downloaded already before this demo. So let's check that one. What I did was that I just clicked Control tilde, or you can go to View and Integrated Terminal. The nice thing is that it's editor and it has integrated terminal, so you can actually run commands without leaving your VS Code tool. So as I say, I already downloaded it, and the size is 1.38 gigabyte. That's it. It just takes a couple seconds, and then you can start it. So let's start a Docker container from the Microsoft SQL Server Linux image. So this is just a template that you can copy paste and use it. So -d means this is the image name that we are going to use, and the port is 1433. And let's run it. Okay, so now we have an environment set up, which is a vanilla SQL Server running on the container. So if I go Docker PS, then SQL Pass, I named it as a SQL Pass as a container that is running. You can run multiple containers, and you can run the container for database and container for application, and you can kind of build your solution on top of that. So it's kind of flexible. Okay. Next thing that I'm going to do is that I'm going to restore a backup from production into this container, SQL Server. So to do that, I'm first making a folder in the container using this docker exe command make the directory. Let's clear that. And I'm using docker copy to copy a backup file, which is AdventureWorks linux.bak file, to the folder that we just created in the SQL Pass container. That's it. Please hold the thought about, hey, can we mount host or any external disk into the container? Yes, you can do that. It's a -v option. Then you can host the volume into the container so that you don't have to copy this one. I will show you this sample during the automation. During the automation, instead of doing this, we are going to mount a backup folder from Azure blob storage. That's what we're going to do. So I will show you in there. Okay, so that's basically it. And then we have a running SQL Server on the container. And it is now our job to restore the demo database. So it's pretty simple. I'm going to run just simple restore statement. Okay, let's do that. Okay, done. So AdventureWorks, which is my database sample, it is from the SQL Server sample site. I restored the database there. So what I'm going to do is that, as I mentioned, we are going to enable masking and script out. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to use dynamic data masking. I'm going to open another SQL file. And let's close it for now. So this is dynamic masking feature that was introduced in SQL Server 2016 based on unmask permission. If user doesn't have an unmask permission, then the content of table and column will be masked based on the masked width function. I believe this is kind of a well-known feature by now. It's been like in a couple year or so. So we're going to run this one. Let me show you how to run it. In the demo SH that we are going to do, I'm using Sickle Command, but for the demo, I'm going to run directly using VS Code. So in VS Code, one thing that you must remember is F1 key. That is basically what Visual Studio Code performs tasks. So if I click F1, then it opens up Command Palette. Because it's an editor, instead of using a mouse and the visual cues, it is optimized for keyboard-based operations. So I type in SQL, then it filters out all other commands that is available in the VS Code. And just to show MS SQL extensions command, if you take a look at, you don't have to type all. So when we were building this extension, we made sure that none of these tasks are kind of overlapping each other when we are typing like a 5 character. So like this. So it's always. So it's just remembering those a few characters, maximum 5, and then you can do the SQL Server database connection, opening a new query, changing the database using use database command, and stuff like that. So let's try to connect. All right, then it opens up connection profiles. Connection profile is something that you can register and manage. And right now, I already created SQL on Docker. So let's connect to that. All right, so as you see, it's connected. And I'm going to show you one more. Use database, and let's run it. And AdventureWorks is created in the container, so we can click it. I just to go with a keyboard. For the demo, I use mouse. That's what we do. All right, and then you click F5. That runs, and it shows all the message about the detailed execution. Now I just clicked F5, and it's all customizable. So if I go and shortcut, then it opens up shortcut definitions. And if I just search for SQL, here you have connect, disconnect, execute query. F5 is a kind of popular one. You can change it to any way that you like. The default one is a Control-Shift-E because F5 is already taken by debug. So we, by default, it start with a Control-E. But if you're working mostly on the database without using the application debugging feature, then you can simply click and type in your new shortcut, then it registers it. So it's as simple as that. And the connect and disconnect is the same thing. If you want to use F4, F6 for connect and disconnect and other commands as well, then you can do so. And then save it, that applies right away. Okay, so that's how you can run SQL script using MS SQL extension on the Visual Studio Code. If you want to add connect more connections, then I will show you how you can easily do that after running the next command. Okay, so we just enabled the dynamic data masking on our AdventureWorks database, and the next step is that we are going to create a user. In this case, we are going to create a user named the scripter. Okay, login and user as a scripter, and we don't give that user unmask permission. So when we log in using scripter user and log in, then data will be masked. The main reason that is dynamic data masking is that based on the permission given to user, if user has unmasked permission, then all the information will be shown without masking. If user doesn't have unmasked permission, then it will be all masked. And under the hood in the database side, it's visible clearly. So if you just, for our scenario of a masking database and then creating dev and test, if we just use a backup, then our solution is half fulfilled, because the database, even with the database masking on the dev environment, is still unmasked if you have a permission on unmask. So we are going to change dynamic data masking to static masking using scripting technique. Okay, so we just created a new login and user. So we need to connect to that user. Now, if you go to SQL, manage a connection profile, there is an edit menu. Okay. Let me make it a little bit small. Okay. So all the connection profiles are stored in user settings in the JSON format. So when you add a new connection, what you can do simply is just to copy paste new one. And here I'm going to name it as a SQL pass. It's a user-friendly name for the connection profile that we are creating. And the user is a scripter, right? That's editor-based connection management. If you want to add more connection properties that you need for advanced matter, then there is a auto-completion list for you, and you can just select and then add the stuff. We also provide you a default value. So it's pretty easy to go and create a new connection profile rather than going through UI-based operations. And then if you are managing like dozens of servers and databases, then you can just do it very quickly by copy pasting, because most of connections within an org is usually very similar to each other. So it's kind of simple that way. So let's save it. And let me check. SQL new, let's open up a new query. Okay, so here it shows up SQL pass. Okay, so this one errored out because it was trying to fetch the password. This is bug. So what we can do is, I will show you this on the SSMS. Sorry, there was a bug. So basically the expected behavior is that if password is not saved, we're not going to save our password in the settings file. Then it pops up and asks what is the password. But instead of doing that, it popped up the error message. So we're going to go fix that one, and it will fix pretty soon. Okay. So let me connect one more time. So this is the IP address of my Mac OS, and the container is running on that Mac OS Docker host. So it shares the same virtual IP. So if I connect using scripter, maybe we didn't run that. Sorry. Okay, let's open up. Okay, we ran it. It was not a bug, it was the user error. Okay, here we go. So it connects, And let's go to AdventureWorks, and we connected as a scripter user that we just created. And let's open up the view employee and select the top 1,000 rows. Okay, hopefully you can see that. I'm zooming my screen, but the presenter tool may not catch up, and it's still small. So as you see, I logged in as a scripter in the data like a national ID number, login ID, and let's see other sensitive informations. Like a phone number, email address, those are all masked. So that's great. If we script out our database using scripter user, then this will be in our script, and then when we reproduce our dev and test the database, they'll be all masked. So that's good. Okay, and another thing is that sometimes the production database has a large amount of data, and we may want to reduce the size before we make a test and dev environment. The test and dev side, it may not need all the millions of records that is in production. So in that case, I use import module DBA tools, which is I also have a link for this PowerShell commandlet module. And you can go and download and use it. And this is a community-driven. It's not from Microsoft, and it's community-driven. And people like you actually created this great PowerShell command. So get table. I'm going to do localhost and OGB. Then it shows all the information about my tables in the AdventureWorks database. And by looking at these row counts and the storage space used, and we can kind of plan which table should be kind of reduced in terms of a data size in there, so that we can make our dev and test environment provisioning faster and more efficient. So this is a great example of using PowerShell against the SQL Server, and I really love it. So you can go and try this one. Okay, let's go back to our Visual Studio Code. So our database is ready, right? It's a masked, and we have a scripter user created. So next step is I'm going to script out the database. I'm going to use MS SQL Scripter. This is a new tool which is in public preview. It is a cross-platform. It supports Windows, Linux, and Mac. As you see that I'm running everything on the Mac right now. So MS SQL Scripter produces a script from the database. So the easy way to understand it is that in SSMS we have generate script wizard, right? So in order to make a solution and repeatable automation, MS SQL Scripter is providing equivalent level of functionality of generate script on SSMS, but in the command line interface. So you can repeat it without going through UI clicks multiple times. And the good thing is that let's set add one more requirement there. So our production database has a lot of tables and store procedures and all that. The application that we are going to test and develop do not need to have all those. It just uses a small subset of table and the store procedures and functions and stuff like that. And that's basically what developers need and test team need. Then we can filter out in a way using include objects and specify two store procedures. Of course, these two store procedures depend on some views, and the view depend on some tables and stuff like that. So to make a complete set of database when we reproduce the database is to be able to include all the dependencies based on these two store procedures that we define in the include objects. And to be able to create, we need to have all the schema. Without schema, the create, let's say, human resources employee, table creation or store procedure creation will fail. So we just include all the schema until the dependency is discovered for these two store procedures. We don't know which schema is needed. So I just added the schema. That means it just pulls down all the schema. There are just 5 in my case. And there are a few other filtering options. And for us, we need the schema and data. You can do schema only, data only, or schema and data together. So MS SQL Scripter, in a sense, it is a kind of equivalent to PG dump or MySQL SQL dump kind of capability. And then you can specify your script file where it will be stored. And let's run it. It works have like the 20,000 rows for the tables that we need. So it can take a kind of like 30 seconds or so. So so we're gonna wait for that. MS SQL Scripter right now is a public preview. In the link, I have added the reference link to our GitHub project. So it is open source, and you can test it, file issue directly to the GitHub, or you can even contribute to that. Contribution is not only for the coding, but it can be like suggesting the features. That is also a contribution. And you can do those, likewise, you're doing for any open source project out there. So that is done. So it creates a script. And this is the one, okay? All right. So I think this one is like 40 megabytes or so with all the insert statement in it. And you can, there's a minimap feature. So you can go and check all the information, quickly verify your script quickly. And because it's a CLI, if you want to modify stuff in the script level, then you can do it with the tools like SED, SED, which is the great tool that you can use a regex, find a certain the strings in file and replace it or delete it, all that kind of stuff using regex. And if you're familiar with it, PowerShell, and PowerShell also has the same thing. So what I'm going to show you is that, so it gets all the content and then of the file, and then it replaces with this. So it can be like, if I want to get rid of all the set options, then I can just say like this. And then, I'm sorry. And then I just do this. And then what it does is that it reads all the content of script file that we just generated, find all the set options. Either it's a set, like let's say a quoted identifier on-off kind of statement, and just replace it with an empty string. So these are kind of very powerful by having command line tool for scripting on top of the SSMS's generate script. Okay, so script is created. So we don't need the SQL pass container anymore because now script is what we are going to use for the rest of the scenario to create a dev and test container. So let's remove that. Let's make sure Docker PS, there's nothing, okay? All right, so now let's spin up one more container. In this case, I named it as a SQL Pass Dev. This one will be a dev environment that we are going to use as a developer's environment, okay? And so let me show you what createdb.sql does. So it's here. So first, before we run the script, the SQL that we generated, we are going to make a database first. And then once it is created on that new AdventureWorks in the dev container, we are going to run script.sql so that we can create database for developers. So let's run that. By the way, I can just run this demo.sh with just call it demo.sh, right? But for demo, I'm doing it line by line. And of course, when I was building this script, I actually tested line by line. So it is a kind of simulating development process for us as DBA to build this type of script, which is common. Okay, and then I'm going to run the script.sql that is generated from our pre-production data masked version using scripter as the user so that we can properly have all that data masked. Okay. So one thing that I want to mention is the Sickle Command. If you notice that, is running on Mac. We released the Sickle Command as a part of MS SQL Tools. I also have a link in the last slide of this demo. We released Sickle Command on macOS version as well. So you can easily install Sickle Command and BCP as well. And you just installing MS SQL Tools, and then you can use it on Windows, Mac, and Linux everywhere you want to use. And this is Sickle Command, and the command line is very important because when we automate it, there is no UI interaction, right? So so having the solid and the good command line tool is must for automation. I will show you in the later. Okay, that's good. So so far what I did was that we created a new container that is for developers, and there we replayed script.sql so that all the data that is coming from production, which is now masked, is there. And because the script.sql contains already masked data, now the dev and test environment will have statically masked data, not the dynamic anymore. So even though the dev and test, anybody who has a SA privilege or DBO privilege on the AdventureWorks database, they will not be able to see any data, sensitive data, unmasked format. Okay, so that is the end of a preparation. It was a few steps, but that worked. Okay, and for now, let's go to Docker. SQL Task Dev is the container that we just prepared, and now I'm going to make it as a new image, which is dev-db, so developers can use it. So just to commit, it's like committing the file change in the source control. By doing that, this container definition is checked into the image. So let's take a look at docker.image. Now, this is the original image that we have, Microsoft /MS SQL Server Linux. Now we have a new image. The container that is created from this image will have all our changes in it. Okay, and we can just skip it. If you want to further flattening out the size of the image, then we can run this for more. So right now it's a 1.87 gigabyte. Started with a 1.38 gigabytes. So if you run this one, then the size goes like a 1.6 something gigabytes, and it takes a couple minutes. So let's skip it for now. Okay. Now, this is interesting stuff. After that dev-div image is created, next step what I'm doing is that I'm publishing that image not to Docker's public image gallery. I'm publishing it to our team image gallery. Azure provide Azure Container Registry service. So using the service, you can create your private image repository, and only the people who has the access permission on that Azure Container Registry can pull down the image and use it. So for our case, I have created SQL DevOps SAC, Azure CR.io, as our container registry. So so let's see Docker image. Okay, now we have 3 images. So this one is the one that we are going to publish. So to publish the final image to the ACR, the registry, is to and then just run Docker push. Then it will be there. So it takes also a couple of minutes. So let's save time and go from there. So I have published it. Let's see dashboard. I will show you what it looked like. So I go to, this is Azure Portal. In Azure Portal, I have SQL DevOps ACS. Let me try to make it bigger. Okay, then you can see here there is a repositories. So click it. Then it shows all the repositories that we have. We named it as a dev.dv. So it's here. So it's published to the registry. There are other stuff that I published before. It keeps track of all the versions. So you can have a version control of your test and dev environment using this technique. Okay. Let's go back to ours. So that's what happened. So let me Docker PS Docker RM. I'm removing the container that we just created. We don't need it because we produced the final image and published. Then as a developer, what they need to do is that when they start the troubleshooting or bug fix database, then they can just simply run this. And Docker PS. Now we just created troubleshooting container. So I'm simulating the developer's environment. They just log into their computer and just run Docker run. Then they have the latest version of test and dev environment that has all the scenario completed. Okay, this is the solution that we created during this demo. Then, can you automate it? Yes, we do. So let's take a look at the automation part. As you notice, this is my project, and what I did was, so I'm showing you this part. This is hooked up with, if you take a look at the bottom, it is in GitHub, okay, and linked up with the Visual Studio team services on Azure. So let me, so as you see, any changes that we made, like a script.sql was generated newly, so it shows all the diffs and all that. User can just commit it, like a SQL pass demo, and check in, and then push the changes to GitHub. And then what happened is, I will now jump into a Visual Studio Team Services. Okay, here we go. what I'm doing is that I'm going to the project in Visual Studio Team Service. And if you go to Code and Files, all my files that we just developed are in the source control. So even for our operation, like building this type of process, can be source controlled and then easily managed. And on top of that, let's go to builds. I defined it, build definition in VSTS. And if I click that, then you can see the history of build. Build means building the Docker image that we just did it manually during this demo. And I'll quickly show you. It is all templates. These steps that you're seeing on the screen is all template. And as you see, I'm simply calling bash script. It can be PowerShell script if you're doing it on the Windows. And the content of the script is just a breakdown of the demo script that we just ran through. There's nothing different there. It's exactly the same thing. Just that I made it as a multiple step so that if there's any failure in each step, I want the build process stops. So only a successful build goes through and produce the final image rather than making it as a whole one step. You can make it as just a one script and just run it. That's also totally fine. Only one thing that you notice is that for the building of the final image, we did the in our script building, and the publishing is the template. So if we go to Visual Studio Team Service and click Add a Task and type Docker, then there's a Docker and Docker Compose. You can simply use this Docker task, which is predefined, and then run build and publish. I recommend using this task for at least build and publish. It's much easier than you write that on your own script, because there are some additional stuff that the VSTS handles, like making the image suitable to be registered in Azure Container Registry, as you see there, and then push it. So using that one, it automatically adds build number so that you can always track your image and go from there. So this is a simple way of automating your build. And if you go to trigger, this build definition is monitoring our Git repository. And it's looking at the SQL DevOps repository master branch. Whenever we check in a new change in there, then this build automatically kicks off. And then the new build image will be published to Azure Container Registry so that the developers and test team can simply download it and use it. The same thing can happen the other way around. Dev builds a new code, database code, and then create a image. And then it goes through test, and then in test that is tested, and then it can be published into production. It is a kind of we may not have time to go that one. If you have time, maybe I can record a video or produce a blog, how you do that. It's bi-directional solutions are possible. Production to dev environment, dev to production environment, both are possible. Now, talking about then how we can manage this one in the production environment in the continuous deploy matter. So I have another project, Content.cu is just the name of a demo application. It does the same thing, it builds image. So if you check, then there were the continuous integration build that happened. It all produces the Docker image. And if I go to release, there's another definition. Then whenever the new Docker image is created, then automatically deploy that to an environment. It can be dev, test, or even pre-production or even production as well. So for that, what we are using is Azure Container Service. That's the name of the service that does automation. And Azure Container Service supports Kubernetes, which is an open source project for automating the containerized app deployment, monitoring, and manage. And Azure Container Service also provides a template. So if I click and there's no search. Then there is a here. This one is the template that you use, and just a simple configuration of Kubernetes configurations in there. And then the result is, I will show you the result. This is the Kubernetes, the UI. So once it deploys a namespace. So our application, I named it SQL DevOps -dev. And within the namespace, it runs pods. Pod is more like a set of runtimes, and that is a scalable and reliable ones that you can manage. So if a pod has failure, then it automatically restart itself and then do all that kind of stuff. So in that case, if you have an application and database, then you can make one container for database, and the applications can run on multiple pods, so you can do load balancing and easily scale up and down for those pods for application. That's pretty good solution for that, the cloud-based and then the cluster-based production environment management. And it provides nice way of firewalling the environment. So database is going into backend subnet, and the application goes up to the front end so that they can be secured. So as you see, there is no external endpoints, and then it goes there. Okay. Alrighty. So let me show you the one more. So because it is right now under firewall and subnet, we need to go through a jump boxing. So what I'm doing is SQL DevOps. Let's log into our jump box. I have a long password, so I just typed in. Okay, so I logged into one of my jump box in Azure VMs, and from there I'm jumping into the Kubernetes cluster network. So SQL DevOps. Okay, so I jumped into cluster, Kubernetes cluster, and SQL Command. I'm going to use this cluster IP. Right, so as you see, our database image is container is running in that Kubernetes container that is deployed through the automation of ACS on Azure. And the Contour University is the database that we used for that part of the demo. And it is running in this service. An application can use it within that network boundary. Okay, so that is the end of demo. It's using lots of technologies, and I wanted to. It is not about like trying to kind of go through deep dive, but kind of show you how the SSMS is now connecting to all the SQL Server 2017 running everywhere, and the command line tools. It can be used in the multi-OS, but most importantly, it is a critical component to build automation. And I listed all the tools and technology in the reference link, and I recommend you go and then try it by yourself, and then in the future we can have more sessions for drill down sessions for each of this area, like a Kubernetes, what is it, the Docker, what is it, Docker container, what is it, and then how we can manage the database container in that production environment, all that kind of stuff. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eric. That was fascinating. I've got one question, and that is, are there any plans to release SSMS on the Mac operating system?
No, I see. So the plan in the roadmap, SSMS will stay in Windows as our flagship tool, but we will provide you a solution that runs on the multi-OS. Right now, we cannot kind of publicly say those because it's in the planning stage. I'm sorry about that one, but it is more like that level at this point. So in terms of scenario, yes, you can eventually have the solution for DBAs on multi-platform. Yeah, but yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does SQL Server Agent work with containers / Docker?
I think so. I believe I tested it, but I'll double check it. My answer is yes, and then it should be, right? But I'll double check it.
Okay, and thank you, and several of the questioners have expressed their thanks as well. And I will make sure that Eric's PowerPoint and demo scripts are posted. The recording will be posted. And I thank you all for coming. And in 2 weeks, on the 26th of July, we have the first of Guy Glancer's two-part presentation on working with large tables. And those of you who have heard Guy before will be looking forward to welcoming him. Thank you all very much. See you in a couple of weeks.